Now, what I want you to do very, very quickly is I want you to think of somebody that's important to you. It can be a family member, it can be a colleague, it can be a friend, it can be somebody that's since passed, just somebody that when I say somebody that means something to you as an individual, not as Explio, but to you as an individual, somebody that brings up a bit of emotional attachment. And I just want you to think of them. I want you to picture their face, their eyes, their smile, and I want you to picture yourself saying to them, I like you. I like you. That's it. Now, with the same person, the same eyes, the same smile, the same emotional attachment, I want you to picture yourself saying to them, I love you. Now, there's a big, big difference. Both four-letter words, both beginning with L, but how you make that other person feel in that moment is like night and day. If I told my wife, I like you, I would be having to be booked into one of the local hotels. How we make that other person feel is like night and day with I like and I love. Now, are we all in agreement that we can influence people with our words? If we can make somebody feel different by saying love as opposed to like, then the same applies with how we communicate with ourselves. We can influence our own physiology in terms of how we speak with ourselves, our inner dialogue. For years, I was super, and still am sometimes very, very critical, very tough on myself, expecting perfection. But all self-development, all personal development comes back to self-love, self-respect, empathy, compassion. And I suppose this is my message with high performance. It can't all be KPIs. It can't all be key performance indicators. It has to be key behavioral indicators as well. I love the way you said you're a person-centric organization. I am shouting from the rooftops at the minute when it comes to performance, we need to start treating our people as human beings as opposed to human resources. If Explio is to get to that £100 million mark, which it will, it's going to be because of you, the people within the company. The people within the companies you're working with, it is the people. It is the people that ensure the success of any team, any company, any business, any sport. It is the people. I'm doing a talk at the minute at an AI conference called Emotional Intelligence is More Important than Artificial Intelligence. And it's not me trying to be rebellious. The opposite. It's about forming the human connection. Connections formed by emotional intelligence and communication. We need to really, really develop our teams. And how we do that is developing the relationship with ourselves first and foremost. If we can see how a loved one, how we can influence them by one word, then we need to take, I suppose, at least be aware of how we speak to ourselves. With that self-image script that I've done, it really, really changed my physiology and therefore my behaviour. Now, words of affirmation, I'm not a huge fan, but I think when we get the emotion and the words in alignment and we add in aligned action, that's exactly what plugs the gap. That's what plugs the gap. Now, we need other tools in our arsenal, and we're going to look at those. The butterfly effect, what is it? I mean, you spoke of going from A to B. You outlined your targets from 2023 to 2024, 2025, and being a €100 million company. Taking on new clients. And in the world of high performance, the key word is growth. And I believe in growth. I think growth is our natural state. Growth in nature, you see it everywhere. All trees, all plants, all animals grow to their fullest potential. It is a natural law, so to speak. We're constantly growing. A tree doesn't get to 80 and lean up against another tree and go, I'm done. I'm taking this summer off. I'm having a break. We're constantly growing. We constantly have to be innovative. We constantly have to change. But when we look at growth and change, the symbolism of the caterpillar to the butterfly is a beautiful, beautiful experience. That's what growth is. That's what growth is. This is what high performance is. It's the reality that you're going from your current state as an individual, your current state as a company, to your desired state, the butterfly. That expression of potential. Now, one question we have to ask ourselves in the world of high performance, one question, anyone I work with, any company, any individual, and I've worked with several Olympic athletes, I've worked with entrepreneurs that are making a global impact, unbelievable CEOs, just phenomenal people in all aspects of life. And one question we have to ask if somebody says, I want to improve, And that could be my relationship with my kids, my business, whatever it may be. What has to go in order for you to grow? The caterpillar must be willing to give up being a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. It must give up its current habits. It can no longer lie and eat leaves all day if it wants to become the butterfly. And that metamorphosis can be hard. It can be tough. When we look at what happens within the cocoon, enzymes are released and that caterpillar quite literally turns into mush. It dies off. And from a symbolic point of view, when we change, when we grow, old parts of us have to die off as well. We can no longer do the same things. We have to do more or work smarter. We have to collaborate. We have to grow. But part of us has to die off till we have forged this new identity of the butterfly. But that is the change that you are about to embark on. That is the change you're about to embark on. And you need two things for that change. You need purpose. You need to have a why. Why would anyone want to put themselves through the metamorphosis process? Why would anyone want to go through the pain of change? You need to have a strong why. You also need a vision. You spoke about your vision. But for me, vision drives decision. When you can see that you're going to become a caterpillar, when you can see you're going to achieve your goals, win the medal, get the £100 million contract, whatever it may be, then it drives your decision. It reinforces your human behavior. You quite literally mold into the person you want to become. It's a gradual process. Now, I work with a lot of elite performers, but to have a full view, to have a full view of the world of human behavior, I also do some voluntary work in the streets of Belfast for particularly men with mental health issues and homelessness, drug addiction, and also one of the local suicide charities, because I think when we look at human behaviour, we have to look at the full spectrum because we're all human. And we never know when we're going to be impacted or affected by things like that. And so you get to see the choices that people make. You get to see that. And when I'm working with these people, I really want to get them to change, to go in the right direction. We need almost like a starter. We need a starting gun for them. And the starting guns, we can have 3 starters as humans. We can have 3 internal starters, which are motivation, desperation, and inspiration. That's the 3 ways to get a human to change. It's the 3 ways to get a team to change. Those are the 3 ingredients that you need for your people or your clients to go through that metamorphosis with you. 3 very, very important words. I want you to say them back to me. So, motivation. Wasn't very motivating. One more time. Motivation. Desperation. Inspiration. Motivation is the pursuit of pleasure. It's dopamine wanting more dopamine. It is wanting the feeling of getting to that £100 million. It is getting the feeling of that growth, of the onboarding of new clients, of seeing people succeed, achieving your goals. It is the pursuit of pleasure. And it's fantastic. And the 1st of January, we're all very, very motivated. But as you know, come the end of February, a lot of us aren't sticking to the goals that we have. So motivation, as fantastic as it is, it's short-lived. Another kind of starter, which has a slightly longer shelf life than motivation, is desperation. One of the guys I was working with, he was actually from Dublin, a recovering drug addict who's now one of Europe's top endurance athletes, a phenomenal human being. And he spoke about the gift of desperation. And he said as when he was going through his addiction phase, it was family interventions and he was causing heartache and pain. And now, a million miles away, he's winning Ironman events and endurance events. And he said, Kieran, when I got to my lowest point, I met God. And I thought, what do you mean? He says, G-O-D, the gift of desperation. When I was so desperate, I decided to change. And if motivation is the pursuit of pleasure, then desperation is when we want to avoid pain. It has a slightly shorter shelf life than motivation. But what covers both is inspiration. Inspiration comes from the words inspire or inspirit, which means something bigger than ourselves. A global community, making a global impact. leaving the world in a better place than what we found. It's something which actually are quite clearly doing. Now, interestingly, from a scientific point of view, inspiration, not only is it believing in something bigger than yourself, it's also an acceptance of both pain and pleasure. It's an acceptance that through this metamorphosis of change, of the caterpillar to the butterfly, that there will be ups and downs. There will be successes and yo's and foot stomping, but there will also be obstacles. There will be challenges. There may be tears. There will be losses. But when we can accept both, when we can accept the pain, the pleasure, the motivation, the desperation, we can get through it. That is essentially what we need for that change. Inspiration. That's what we need. We need to accept both. If we're going to achieve the goals, there has to be both. There has to be an acceptance of both from a human behavior point of view. Otherwise we'd all be uber successful millionaires with six packs. And trust me, I'm not an athlete anymore. There has to be both.